Little Guy Bicycles, hanging with the guy on What's in My Stand Tuesday. Woo, Tech Tick Tuesday or Stand Tuesday. Oh, I forgot what I said, but I called it Shop Talk Tuesday. That's what it is. Hey, welcome back. I'm Justin the Guy, and thank you for joining me. Well, today, without further ado, we got a Trek 5200. And sorry for the vertical I wanted to be horizontal. I don't know. You can't change it when you already set everything up. So we're going to go vertical plane. So hopefully this works for you. And it looks like I need to do a little adjustment because I'm getting more ceiling than I am shop. There we go. All right. Okay. So talking about this 5200. Without saying, 5200s is a Trek model, which is basically born back in mid 90s, late 90s actually, the OCLV, optimum compact low void. There's probably a couple other terms that they like to call that. I do have a chat here too, so if you want to chime in and say hi, we'll be reading those. If you have any questions along the way, let me know. So back to the Trek 5200. What's in my stand? This is when Lance Armstrong did Tour de France 7 times. 7 times. I'll move this so you can see more of the bike. There we go. All right, so we got the gunmetal gray, basically what it is. If you don't know much about these bikes, they're full carbon frame, carbon fork. They are bonded together. They're pieced together instead of layering system as they do today. So this is kind of old tech in the sense. I would say this is probably this is actually a 2006-ish, somewhere around there, because it has a 10-speed. That's usually when you know a bike is by the age of the componentry. So 2006, 2007, that's when they switched over from 9-speed to 10-speed, the Shimano Ultrgra. So therefore, that's what this is. And also is a triple, which is another gem because of those out there in the world doing any kind of riding. You're mixed with new bikes where they're going to the 2x or 1x with a big cow pie plate in the back of gears. And that doesn't give you that smooth transition, number one. Second, it has a hard time finding that one specific gear that you like to be riding at the time. So therefore, the triple back in the day actually nailed it. And you can change the gear ratio in the back from like a 11/28. And if you wanted to go bigger, like a mountain cassette, you can do a little bit of conversion with a chain and so forth and make it a little bit wider. But the componentry group on this guy is pretty stellar. It's with a triple, it's very good. I'm in Colorado where the Rocky Mountains are behind me, and being in shops here for good portion of my cycling career, that between the altitude and the mountains and the gradient degrees of climbing, a triple is definitely loved here. Back in the 90s, they didn't have triples in the early part, and all of a sudden the triples they started retrofitting mountain bike componentry onto road bikes, and then all of a sudden they were like, hey, let's make a specific bike. Trek was one of those leaders in the industry where they had a triple recreational road and a little bit more, I wouldn't say race, because no racer will admit that they want a triple, but secretly they do. But in any case, and the training bike probably has one. In any case, with the triple back then, that was the revolutionary part because we were stopped doing conversions, doing a lot of labor and uplift there for a bike that's already there, existing or older model, to a bike that actually is already out of the box, ready to go. There was a big kind of boost for us to some level in our market because the mountain bike scene was dropping, and the triples actually got people into more road riding and able to do some more mountain rides, triple bypass, ride Rockies, all those kinds of things. Well, I was right before Lance Armstrong, the 7 Tour stripped away metal racer was hit, and when that hit the scene, it even compounded it and it doubled up because you were able to, hey, you got into road riding, you've been mountain biking, and now we have this huge insurgence of let's get into riding, on the road. So this is a great thing. Got a couple questions already. getting a flat on a gravel, hopefully it's not tubeless. And if it's a regular tube, you just put a new tube in it. But you want to double check a couple things. We'll go over that in a second here. All right, you got a Breezer brand steel frame, love it. Sorry I have to poke and see because I can't read that far away on my phone, so I have to use my laptop to read the messages here. Oh yeah, the Breezer. Yeah, it commented on the Breezer brand. People think of Breezer, they're thinking like flowing hair, big balloon tires on the beach. Where right now in November, I kind of would rather be somewhere warm but the beach. But in any case, the Breezer's always been. The Breezer is one of the first mountain bike makers back in the grandfather up there with Gary Fisher and Richie, and he was one of those I think that did the repack races. I'll have to talk to my buddy John Bradley about that because the Breezer's been around and they've come back with some pretty decent, great bikes, fun bikes. They may not be super light and they're not seeing the race circuit and all that kind of stuff, but they're actually pretty stellar kind of thing. Absolutely. Oh, it's tubeless. Ooh, fun for you. Yeah, let's talk about tubeless. I have a video in my library about tubeless. It has its benefits, absolutely. It has its deficits, absolutely. Tubeless tires, they really came on the scene for mountain biking to give you that better traction and lower pressure. Therefore, you can climb them better and have better suspension built into the tire itself as well as the suspension of the bike. Well, they actually put that on the gravel bikes, which is pretty decent, transition. Then you have your followers out on the road, which I think is absolutely insane. But that's me. I do have customers that do tubeless on road, and they swear by it, what have you. That's fine and dandy. But the problem is when you get tubeless, when you get a big enough flat out there riding, you still should have an extra tube or those bacon strips or whatever to poke the hole. If you can find the hole, that's if it's big enough. And sometimes it's small and you can't, or the sealant dried out. There's a lot of variables going to happen on your tubeless flowage flat. A lot of people don't understand that you got to refresh that every 6 to 9 months and make sure you have a liquid inside there because it does dry out. That latex dries out. So that's where you have to refresh. If you get a slow leak or a flat on your ride, you at that your time, you're going to pull out your spare tube if you have one and hope to God that you don't have too much liquid in there because it's going to be a complete hot mess trying to put a new tube in there with all of that. So needless to say, the tubeless has their benefits, but fixing the flat on the fly on the trail, that's one thing. If you find it in the garage, that's another. And if you find it in the garage, you air it up, it doesn't hold, it may burp, or that kind of thing, then it may work. But if you're dried out, you can just pop that bead on one side and pour in some more, 2 or 3 more ounces in there, seal it back up and air it up to the pressure and spin it, and hopefully it reseal. What can go bad? Your valve, your tape, your tire, like everything else on a regular tube, that kind of thing. But you don't want to go too long on the tubeless. But yes, since you mentioned you got a flat on a tubeless, got to poke a little fun at you. But in any case, it does have its benefits. A lot of people swear by it. But when you do have problems, it becomes big problems, needless to say. That's where the kind of industry's gone to for a lot of us, and we're just dealing with it. Yeah, Scott. Yeah, you just mentioned it. And I know you're the one with one of the tubeless road, and you love it. Good for you. I don't want to be insulting by any means of that. In any case, but you know what you know. We have. I'll allude to will my shop survive in a little bit. There's a couple things in there, but a little bit of a teaser. But yeah, to get you to click. But in any case, we'll start the first portion about the bike I'm working on here. I bought it used, and then we'll talk about maybe some little brand inventory type things, which will allude right into will my bike shop survive and topics of the industry where we're all a little nervous, and we have been a little nervous, but we're just I don't know, pour on more and just call it good and keep going, right? In any case, back to this bike here. Well, in my realm of what I do, initially I started refurbishing bikes, and that's what happened about 4 years ago before COVID hit, and then Fast forward today, I had to alter my business, do more service and all that kind of thing, which I'll allude to topics after that here too. But I'm gone from season to season, so summer to winter. And my new norm is summer, I just do as much service as I can, help those out that are riding and so forth, and I don't do as much refurbishing. I do a few here and there, but not as my main core because obviously service is the bigger need. And in the off season, that's where I'm going to be collecting and acquiring more bikes to basically, flip, but do my way of flipping, which means stripping the bike down, refurbishing it, double checking for everything, make sure it's safe, and working on its fine tune. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, the market has shifted so much that I have to be very, very careful what, number one, I purchase used, and number two, is the price point low enough so I can get out underneath it if things go sideways. Well, what things go sideways? Well, if it costs too much to put back together for the selling market currently. Okay, I was selling these guys during the COVID piece around, $700-800, which is actually a pretty decent. I mean, not a huge profit. I'm not going to make any, millions off of this, but it is enough to cover my time and cost. Now these guys are going for used around $500 and less, in good condition. So therefore, I really, really, really have to pay attention to the price and not so much high volume to more strategic volume, right? In addition to the YouTube world has actually offset some of my costs, or actually not costs, actually providing a somewhat of an income to offset, there you go, what I need to bring in for a household. So I still need to make a living at this. And am I? That's debatable, according to my wife. But in any case, I'm here and it's a passion and I enjoy doing it. So back to the 5200. History of the truck, they've been around since the 70s. They're still seeing them today. They're one of the leader companies. But looking at a gym like this is like the early mid 2000s, 2006, like I said. But this is also right before they switched over everything to Taiwan to be built by Giant, and I don't know if they're all being built by Giant today, but that's what we're looking at. This bike was a USA made. Trek really did try their best to make a lot, if not majority, of their bikes in the United States. Essentially, what they were making is the frames, maybe some of the forks, putting the wheels together there, that kind of thing. That is about as much as you're going to get. Only company that actually did make a full bike, rim, spokes, nuts, everything from end to end, was the American from Schwinn in 1962. I have a video on that with John Bradley. He featured that guy. So heavy as a tank, but whatever. But so this is where they had that little story time. The engineers at Trek, carbon engineers, we're looking at other resources and possibly making a less expensive carbon bike to compete or bring to the market. And one of the guys I met in my travels here doing what I'm doing, he used to be a former employee of Trek, and he went over to Taiwan, looked at the carbon development, and realized that the carbon development there was so much more than what they're doing here, and how much it would take to tool up to do comparison would be almost impossible. So that 1 week being in Taiwan doing their carbon thing turned out to be 7 years for this guy. So they produced stock production in the United States, and they shifted everything over to Taiwan just to compete. Needless to say, they were still, they gave it a good honest try. Let's put it that way. But it's still an American company, and they have a lot of employees in the United States that they support. So that's a good thing. So I'm not going to bash on that part of it. A lot of companies do that. Canada tried to do the United States thing too for a while. I think they were trying to bring Canada back to be produced, or some of the models in the United States, but I think that got kind of muddled up in the last year or so due to the fact that our economy and the market and where the bike industry is just pretty much nuts right now. It's just in a squirrely direction, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But back to this bike, bought it used pretty inexpensively. It's one of those gems, but it does have the paired spoke system on this, and once I did get it home on the rear, For the Bontrager pair of spokes, they started cracking around the non-drive side, which would be, if I can give you a close-up, paired spoke, and drive side means where the gears go. That would be this, spoke nipple rim area here. These are cracked on that one as well. In other words, the wheel is unsafe for me to resell. So could I ride it for a while? Sure. Keep an eye on it. Definitely. I wouldn't recommend it by any means, but wheel set, used market, a new set that actually is in good condition is going to cost me $100. So that's pretty much eats away at the profit of trying to sell this at 500. And I'm not even talking about all the cables, bar tape, possibly chain, tires, tubes, and then from the wheels. It's usually you're talking about at least $50 to $100 and all those bits. So now that's really cutting into it. So we're talking about if I sold this for, let's say, 600, and the time I put into my bikes, I'd be making less than minimum wage. Let's put it that way. That's unfortunately not a good deal to refurbish this. So the call on this bike is going to be, if I haven't found any other problems, because the shifting on this is dead. It's not engaging, so the shifters might be bad. That's another thing too. So we're already past the red line. The red line is, boom, all right, got to be parted out. I might be able to get close to if half of what I paid for on the frame fork. I'm still going to do the detailing and all that, make sure the frame is in pristine and inspected condition. Bottom bracket bearings, headset bearings, all those things, the parts you can get out of it. If I'm lucky, I'll get 100 for the shifters, maybe 70 to 80. This is eBay pricing that you'll see out there for the crank set, maybe another 80 to 100, but it is a triple, so that's where you get a little extra because people look for triple. This does not have a long cage derailleur. So somewhere along the lines, that's weird. But should have a long cage derailleur. So the rear derailleur, I'm not going to get the 60 to 80 bucks. It's going to be like a $30 Ultrgra double short cage derailleur, right? So when you start adding this all up, I won't make as much as I probably would if the wheels are fine and the shifters are good, but I will definitely make a little bit of profit for my time. And also it cuts down the time. Well, here's the flip time. The time to sell the parts kind of distributes it over time a little bit easier, but it's easier to sell a whole bike, but it's easier to sell and list it and all that because you only have one item. Now you're talking about 7 or 8 items I need to post individually on multiple platforms. So you're talking about eBay, my website, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, Bike List, you name it, right? So, and you got to copy it, which is not too terrible, but it does add up, but hopefully you'll make enough money offsetting that as well. So let's take a peek at another. All right, your channel is so appropriate. My late father got me back into riding about 10 years ago, and I'm just now getting back to riding after 2 years since he passed away. I'm sorry to hear that he passed away. We had a family member pass away a year ago, father-in-law, and it's been a pretty rough year. Let's just put it that way. Not going to get into that, but hey, I feel your pain. Thank you for joining me, and absolutely cycling helps clear your head. It just get on a ride and try not to think about anything when you're first on your ride. It'll come to you, and you'll work out those issues. Definitely a mental health benefit, also a physical health benefit, everything else in between. Cycling's great. Scott can, he did chime in here. He's watching. He will definitely contest to that. Yeah, you have a bad day, go for a ride. Drop everything else. Just, for your mental state and everybody else that you live with and is around you, it's good for them too. Anyways, but yeah, getting into cycling, whatever the reason may be, is it's a great thing, and that's where I'm trying to help people, for them to get into cycling. It's mentally health savings, physically, all those things will apply to that. But cycling for me has always been a passion. I came in from the back door of a bike shop because I worked at my parents' shop. And I was not a cyclist. I was a dumb kid, 18, looking for a job. My dad had a bike shop. Lucky me though. And I fell in love with it in the perspective of working on them. And then I got into riding. Then I did a little novice, off-road riding, racing, that kind of thing. And then now, fast forward today, getting my daughter and my son into riding with wife, periodically. They're not nearly as into it as I am by any means, but it's, they still enjoy doing it. They see how the passion lives in through me, and just keeping, the old trucker bikes and family thing alive in my head. And, any case. So back to this bike past the red line. So unfortunately, what do you do? I mean, well, if you get yourself in a situation too, you get yourself a used bike, like, oh man, it's just going to cost too much to fix up. What can I get out of it? If the frame and fork is good, you can list that on there, clean it up really good. The shifters usually are the higher. The shifters and cranks are the second costs that you can recoup if they're in good conditions. Besides the wheels, though, you got to do a little technical look at, make sure the hubs are smooth, the rims are not worn out. If it's a disc, you make sure the discs are good. That kind of thing. You can get some wheels, cost back on wheels, but keep in mind, wheels are not cheap to ship. I mean, it's one of those things where it cuts into a lot of it. And frame and fork is the same thing, but the shipping on the smaller parts, you can keep them between 10 to 15 bucks. So you can, easier to get the brake sets to sell. The shifters are the bigger golden ticket, and the crankset and the bottom bracket. If those bearings are still good, you can sell it with the crankset. And sometimes the pedals, you can get a little bit of money out of the pedals. Chains, nobody really wants to use chains nor cassettes, so I just use those as backstock if they're still good. And cables of housing is just a commodity cut. I mean, you just literally get rid of it. So if you find a bike that has some, carbon cage, like this one has one carbon cage. Sometimes those aero bars, you might make an extra 50 bucks. Saddles might be a decent price to get, recover your price on that. So that's what I'm kind of looking at this guy here. Unfortunately, I'd love to be able to build it up, but it comes to dollar and cents and time. And that's where we're going to be on this guy. What's kind of, I noticed the weird is the headset is also really kind of chunky. So I'm really going to have to inspect these bearings to make sure they're not compromised. If so, I need to replace them. And I've noticed here the stack is kind of short. So I don't know if they cut it. The person mentioned they did triathlons, and triathlon bikes have been used in triathlons that really got into it. They might do a lot of cutting of seat posts and head just to shave as much weight as possible. Because they read too many articles and they compromise those bikes. So keep an eye on that. So there might be some things you need to be concerned about on that, because this stack height should have been a little bit higher. When I picked this bike up, it was during the blizzard of last week. You would hardly believe that was, yesterday it was 60 degrees. But I'm freezing in the snow, and I'm like looking over the bike, like, oh, I'll just check it out later. But the price warranted enough that I knew I was going to be okay with that. So therefore, that's what we got. All right. Thank you for I think they're called super chats or cup of coffee or whatever they call them. I think YouTube's been changing that, but hey, I appreciate it. Another butt for chair. That's a good name. Definitely. The uniqueness is definitely the better you can get, you can go. All right. Oh, let's celebrate their 5th super chat. All right. On live stream. Just started doing these. I've had a couple super chats. Don't feel offended if I don't respond appropriately, because it's new. And I'm a bike mechanic. I'm now a YouTuber, but a bike mechanic trying to be a YouTuber. Keep that in mind. There's a learning curve. Big one. Big time. All right, Scott chimed in. Oh, thanks. Justin knows cycling is good for mental, physical health. Yes. And yeah, if you get time, I had a conversation with Scott. He's in the chat here, and I have a video of it, and it does cover some points. It's like the Hot New York Minute, and it's basically a 2-piece. He was a messenger, as a New York messenger, which is really kind of interesting story, but he's also in the mental health, brain injury realm, and he brought us some, I didn't know kind of concepts on, or things related to that. And please wear your helmet. Anything, if you get anything out of anything that I talk about, anything, wear your helmet. Just wear your helmet. Which alludes to the story that I have for a friendly visit us this weekend. Her ex got in a bike accident, got hit by a truck. This was a couple years ago, and she was still one of the contact people, even though they're divorced. Showed up at the ER, and the officer gave her the helmet, which is broken in 4 pieces. And if he wasn't wearing that helmet, he would be dead today. I mean, so I hear a whole bunch of stories about that all the time. So wear your helmet, even if it's just tool around the neighborhood real quick with your kids. Please do. I can't tell you how many times I go on the bike path and the parents don't have helmets and the kids do, and I'm like, it's just okay. Getting on my soapbox. Back to the bike. OCLV. This will be a pretty bike, and this will be an opportunity for somebody if they get into cycling and they like riding, or the bike that they have doesn't fit them, or if they had an incident where they had a bad frame. That's where you can sell those frames. And actually, for me, it brings the price points down. I can sell a lot more items and kind of keep the cash flow and the lights on, literally. And that's what a lot of shops are doing right now. So we'll go into that conversation about the shop and how to keep the shop alive and all that. But hey, talking about this bike, I mean, Ultrgra is the third level down, or second level down in componentry in the Shimano line. So in other words, it's a workhorse componentry. The budget friendly is the 105, which is the one level before that. If you're into racing, Dura-Ace is nice, but be careful, buyer beware, especially on used Dura-Ace. They usually are they're used. They're used a lot, number one, because they're usually on bikes for people who are already into riding or racing, what have you. So you got that going. Second, Shimano is not the greatest when they bring out the latest tech integration, like going from a 9-speed to a 10-speed, for example. Their 10 speeds that are on the race circuit are touched by mechanics daily. They really don't get the real world application for recreational riders. So they usually have a year or two of bugs to work out in their line. And then when that gets worked out, then it gets, when that tech gets folded to the Ultrgra level, they kind of debugged a lot of it. Not saying it's perfect, but it's a lot better. So therefore, if you do buy an Dura-Ace, you can buy like the second or third gen of that model, or just go with the Ultrgra. It'll save you a lot of heartache and problems before. I've had stories about that before where they did iterations and super train wreck as working in a shop, working with new stuff. So there's your gold nugget for purchasing used. Ultrgra 105, great stuff. It holds up well. It'll do what you do. If you do get the Dura-Ace, you'll let the second or third year iteration of it, and you'll be a little bit better off as they work out all those bugs, that kind of thing. Awesome. All right, other questions. Sadly, sorry, Michael. Sadly, a local bike shop is closed in my village. I'm going to talk about that here in a couple minutes. What I've been seeing, and it's been a struggle, absolutely. Oh, okay. Missed the first part of it. You really didn't miss much. I was just going to overview of the 5200. This particular one. First part of this Talk on Tuesday shop is what I'm featuring on my bike. And again, this is a Trek 5200, early 2000s. You can rewatch the early part of it. But this is where the height of the carbon builds in the United States before everything got shifted over into Taiwan. So it's a pretty good bike. It also, with another thing, the keynote on these guys, it has your inch and a 1/8 headset, which is pretty standardized. So you can get a lot of parts still on that. And the bottom brackets are 68 millimeter shells. Though therefore you can get all newer parts on it. So basically, you can get this bike frame, although it's not disc, but you can get newer componentry on it. Maybe used, like the 11-speed Dura-Ace with the mechanical brakes group, and upgrade this. So it's definitely upgradable frame and fork. So that's a good thing there as well. All right. Give me advice on 27, 29 tires. I'm going to get my first drop bar bike gravel. And I'm stuck between the Canyon and the Specialized. Okay, you know, gravel 29 700C versus the 27. In my opinion, I have a pop rod which has a 700C 29er style. It's not as wide, obviously. Um, and I've had it since 2006, what have you. I've been riding gravel, cyclocross bikes, pre-gravel bikes for several decades. Those are really good for hard pack, dirt, light trail riding, bike paths, pull your kid behind the trailer, just general fun, faster bike. If you go through the 27s, and you know other people will comment and drop some other um, opinions if you have one too, especially the wider, smaller tire, which I'm looking at the Redwood Poseidon one, kicking around that one. Reason being, it has a 27. It's a little more off-road-ish. Let's say like a little more aggressive single track riding. Okay, back in the day when I started mountain biking and mountain bike racing, we didn't have suspension. So for me, it's like going back home. So and right now, a mountain bike, I have one, just haven't ridden them in the last 10 years. It's just my life has changed to a point where I don't pack up and hit the hills anymore. And if I do, I'm just gonna go rent one, you know, because I'm not gonna invest into the newer tech. I do a lot of riding locally, but I thought about getting one of those pseudo 27-inch tire gravel wider tires for those rougher terrain type riding. But correct me if I'm wrong. If you either the other ones are out there to help this guy out, figure out which one will probably be the best for him. But that's kind of my take: is skinnier or larger is for like your faster, less aggressive dirt trail type stuff. But if you want a little more technical riding, like trials-ish style type mountain bike, that kind of thing, it all depends where you're going to be. You know, more mucky mucks. It's, you know, the wider tire, a little smaller diameter is going to help you with that mud conditions and so forth, that kind of thing, a little bit. Yeah, the 105 componentry. To go to the 1A question on that, 105. I still think they make the mechanical version of that, which is great. So you can still use a mechanical brake on this, so you can get the newer version of it, and still, or I don't know if it's a Di2 yet on that, but I'll have to double check. You got to forgive me. I live in the used world. I'm not always reading up on the cutting edge new stuff. It usually falls in my lap, then I read up on it because time is too short. I got a child, family, life, and work, and everything else in between. So I wish I could sit there and stare at the new model catalogs I used to when I was in my 20s, but that ain't happening. I just don't have the time, unfortunately. Yeah, the 27.5 would be a good sweet spot. Absolutely, for sure. I use my. Okay, so I have a question here on sizing from another butt for chair. Let's see. So sizing is the number one thing. And if you've watched any of my videos before and we've talked about sizing, it doesn't matter how cheap, how good, how great that bike is. If it's not the right size, it's not the bike for you. You just have a bike that doesn't fit you. It's like putting on a size 4 shoe and trying to fit in that when you wear a size 11. It's just not going to work. It's just not going to work for you. It will turn off your experience, not give you as good performance, all those things. So keeping that in mind. So you're looking at a Spitfire, which is a 52 centimeter, which 52 centimeters on most bikes, depending if that's a compact, that might be a little bit different. But if it's compact, 52 might still be considered a medium. But if they're going small, medium, large, that's where it gets really confusing bits. I think so. If you're 5'10", you're either a medium or large. You're fitting in that range, or you're a 56, maybe a 58, but that might be a little big. If it's traditional frame sizing, a 56 is probably close to you. If it's a small, medium, large, it's going to be a medium or medium large. It's probably your range. The 52 centimeter might be too small for you. But look at that particular model, make, and year. Go to geometrygeeks.com, and hopefully you can find that spec charts. and you can cross-reference it to ones you're currently riding that you found that fit you pretty well, or if you're just starting off, kind of go by like a bicycling charts of sizing, size ranges, and that's a good start there. But honestly, I've had a lot of people that try to get into a bike that's a little too small for them. They go for a few rides and do some modifications, and it still just doesn't work out for them. That's just sad. I had a couple of titanium bikes I would love to keep, but they were my size. Fortunately, I didn't have another. My wife's like, "It's good for you because we've been in trouble." But in any case, that's where you're good. But yeah, just wanted to. Yeah, geometrygeeks.com. So after this is all done, I'll put a link to that if I remember. If not, put in the comments in the actual video. Hey, what was that video again? Or that website again? I'll tell you. They do, it's kind of a fun one on newer bikes. Sometimes they don't have all of them, but on the newer ones, you can compare like geometries from brand to brand on sizing. It's kind of cool. It's kind of a neat little platform for sure. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, the geometry. And when you're looking at a used bike, this is an interesting thing. Let's go on that a little bit. Okay, the geometry is the frame, right? Okay, so when you're getting sizing, it's like the collar here to the center of the crank is, this one's the 52, traditional 52. So you're using metric on this. The other one to measure to cross-reference is the center to center of the top tube. The top tube, sometimes if they're square, like this is, when they're 52 here and a 52 here, but if you're looking at that 52 Spitfire and it's also like a 56 or 58 head tube length, then it's probably more of a compact frame, therefore it may fit you. And also when you're looking at trying to figure out what size the bike is, but some people just don't know this is a used. Looking at, if you go to their old catalogs, if you can look those up, like for me, I do a lot of Le Mans, I'll look up a Le Mans 2003, and then they'll have a geometry spec, and tell me the head tube length. That's where I found like, okay, the head tube lengths are going to be different on each size for the most part, not all bikes, but for the most part. These may be really close with the head tube, so that you can really identify which size it is, sometimes by just the head tube length. From this one's here, it's 100 millimeters, so, or 10 centimeters. So those are kind of the tricks I do to try to figure out the size of the bike and also to ride by that. Therefore, the ride is different. I mean, that's the only thing that makes one brand over another different is the geometry, besides componentry, or besides the materials that they use to build those bikes. But the geometry is what gives you that ride, that feel, that flux, and all that. And that's where you get different head tube lengths and so forth. So the taller the head tube here, the more lash position, more endurance style, more head tube compact here is more aggressive for race. So yeah, they really got themselves all split in different ways. Hey, thank you, Michael. I appreciate the super. Is that a super chat? Let's do a super chat for some new feature that YouTube has. I mean, who can keep up? Oh, my goodness. I mean, I'm so busy working on bikes all day. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. A good call. Fitting for 5'10", 54 centimeter, that fits in that range. All depends on the brand. If you know is Fuji's fit 54 centimeter, and keep in mind the vintage too, because a 2024 Fuji or whatever is going to be different frame geometry than the 2000s. And when we carried Fuji back into Parker Bikes days, that's another different geometry fitting too. So the iterations changed. And there was a big push in around the 2000s of the Y2K. They did a big kind of push to compact frames, and they kind of changed those. And the Giant was one of them that led into that, as well as Schwinn when they got revamped. John Bradley was working for them, and they did the switching to the compact. And then Specialized did that pretty hardcore before Trek. Trek really hasn't gone to well, they went to compact, but they didn't really go to small, medium, large. They still kept their centimeter. And instead of being like, oh, it's a 56, and they like it go up to here on the seat tube, want to measure out that, but it fit like a 56. If that makes sense. Anyway, where's my coffee? It's good. It's a good morning. It's a good morning in Colorado. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day in your neck of the woods. But yeah, that's what we're looking at. I mean, this is a beautiful bike. Gonna part it out. I'll definitely break even if not make my money on it. I'll do a video on some of the featuring parts. Ultrasonic one, I'm gonna have to take the shifters off since they're dead. And so here's an interesting tricky bit. I'll do a little gold nugget here, and I'm just pulling my copy. So with the ultrasonic cleaner, this is this little silver box in the back corner here. I have a super ultrasonic cleaner playlist if you want to check it out. It is a game changer for us bike shop people because you used to have like the chemical bath and you just smear and chemicals in your face, and you had to wear like an industrial lab gloves and so forth. Ultrasonic cleaner, we could use simple green, which is a lot more friendly to the environment as well as ourselves, and it's also usually a lot diluted to 1 part. It's simple green to like 6 or 7 parts water to help dilute that. But what the thing is, between the ultrasonic explosion and micro explosions of bubbles inside the small parts, is in addition to is a heating element. So I crank mine up to about 50 degrees Celsius, and what that does is help melt any kind of gunk that's still in there. I do pre-spray these inside, and with these, you can open them up and really get spray in there. I like to use carb cleaner or brake cleaner. If you don't want to use that, use White Lightning Clean Streak, which works really well. I just don't use Clean Streak because it's 4 times more. But if you're only using them once in a while, you can afford to put it in your shot. Since I go through so much of it, believe me, I'm not puffing. I'm not getting high on the stuff, even though the people at Walmart, when I buy it, they look at me weird. But anyways, because I buy like 4 cans of it at a time. It's like, no, I swear, it's just back stock. In any case, spray it in there and kind of cycle through the shifting. You do have to be careful with it spraying too much on decaling because it might strip decals off parts, also frames, so you want to be mindful of that. But what that helps us when you pre-treat it, it helps kind of break that stuff down. And between the ultrasonic cleaner and that simple green, it again breaks it down even further. And then once it's about 5 minutes, that's all I usually do. And then I put it in the streaming hot water in my shop sink and then cycle through the gears. And eventually, through all those 3 things, it'll eventually break free. Right now, it's dead. It's not engaging at all. It will kind of break the gunk off of the ball. So it's happening about 80-90% of the time, 95% of the time. The Shimano grease that they put in there from the manufacturer is that green fluorescent stuff. Over time, it hardens. And once that hardens up, it prevents those pulls from catching, and so they get stuck up and they just don't engage. So once you blow that all out, and then I refresh it with Tri-Flow Superior Lube. But what I use is, they have the drip, but they also have the foam. And I like the foam for the shifters because it gets into all those parts and kind of sits in there, and then it kind of drips through. And once I spray in them, then I cycle through, and that gets the shifting like super, 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 super smooth. It does a great job. That kind of thing. All right. Yeah, we're still talking about the. All right. Yeah, and we're talking about sizing again. Alabama was talking about. I'm 5'11". I'm 5'11" too. I would never find myself on the 54, but also it's your body, right? I mean, I have long legs, so there's no way I'll be able to do a 54. But I have a short torso. Then I always have to do something with the stem. So needless to say, depending on the height charts that they're on there, you got to consider if you have a long legs or short legs, that kind of thing. That might dictate the frame size because you want to have some clearance. So you don't want to hit your junk on this. I mean, it's like you want to have like old school. Put your leg over it. You want a couple inches of clearance, at least for road, 3 to 4 for mountain. But when you get into the compact frames, that's what it gets a little tricky bit. But it also is this cockpit position here too. You have to adjust for. Therefore, the Le Mans for some reason fit me better or rides better for me. So that's I know I'm a 57. Boom, out of the gate, it could be any 57 Le Mans, and it's going to work good for me. But once you get that first initial frame size and the one that fits you really well, then you're going to be chasing that frame size and geometry the rest of your cycling life. It's just one of those things. You'll look at other brands like, ooh, that's really close to what I've been riding here because I really have a good experience. And there might be a couple tweaks, but therefore it's a kind of a good thing. In any case, But yeah, that's what I do with the shifters here to blow those out. Check the bearings. Sometimes the bearings can be redone, but they're mostly they're replaceable. This is a Cane Creek headset, but Endura has a whole bunch of bearing sets. Cane Creek has its own bearings. I do have a bag full of bearings too from some of these I've swapped out. Worst case scenario, if I don't have a bearing or can't replace it, if I'll find one, 20, 30 bucks replacement kind of thing, and inspect the rest. Hopefully it offsets that kind of deal. So then you look at the bike, it's been used to some level, but not overly abused. I mean, the brake pads look pretty good. The rim wells are actually decent. Unfortunately, the back rim is cracked, so we'll have to go with that. I'll have to pop the C-post out and see if it is cut. I have a few Thompson in the bucket that have been cut, and that height limit line is gone, so you don't know. And that's something I don't feel whatever comfortable letting anybody buy off of me or even get. I mean, it's like one of those things that, you can buy the parts, the clamp system, that kind of thing. Sure. Why not? That kind of thing. Okay, so a good question about what does ultrasonic cleaner do differently than putting stuff in a crock pot with warmer temperatures and just sitting there? Well, if you're watching any of the videos on ultrasonic cleaner, it makes little micro bubble explosions inside there where it basically just gets into those little parts and helps break down the crud, basically, going through several cycles. So for cassettes and chains that I want to clean, I'll put them in a bag or a jar that's just straight simple green and put it in my tank. And with glass or the bag, the ultrasonic still cuts through the glass in the bag and actually does its work there. It has those little micros. It's on a microscopic level where it does little explosions and it cleans out those little linkages a lot better. Little small parts that you can't get to, like on shifters or inside that cassette or in the derailleur parts where the spring is. That's where it really kind of gets in there and cleans up. And with that heating element, again, either way, really cleans up. All depends how gunky and dirty. A lot of stuff I get sometimes is like that aged grease that's been on there for, the 10 to 15 to 20 years kind of thing. That's where you're trying to clean out. Ultrasonic cleaners, you don't have to get the big one if you don't want to. If you're just doing small parts, like the shifters or derailleurs, cassettes, and chains, you can get the smaller ones for like 60 bucks or something like that from Amazon. And then you can clean your glasses and jewelry and everything else too. So disconnect. So that therefore, did that pause? Hopefully I'm not stuck with got a stupid call on my phone. I'm sorry if that muddled everything up. Unfortunately. Okay. Ooh, woo. Oh, sorry. Even though my phone was silent, it still cut off. I got a phone call during the stream. Sorry. I apologize. I will. I don't know what I'll do. I'll look it up and make it more. You're not gonna bug me. In any case, yeah. So with ultrasonic cleaner, it's not that expensive. Crock pots can still cost you like a good one, 30 bucks, and you're not gonna be using it for food, right? Hope not. Don't do that. Same thing for waxing chains. Get yourself a little wax warmer. Got one in the back here. It's you can get it for 20 to 30 bucks, somewhere around there. You get the wax warmer that's for waxing your bits, and your legs and your arms and facial hair. I don't want to do that. See the ones with the nose? I don't want to do that. In any case, but yeah, those are a lot cheaper. Yeah, if you want to pony up and pay for the Silka specific waxer with a little hanger thing, I think they're on sale right now for like 80 bucks or something like that for the pre-Black Friday. So if you want to just go that route too, sure. But yeah, you just need, most waxing temperatures are about 100, 180 degree-ish Fahrenheit. If you want to do strip chips, you need to get over to 215 to have the strip chip from Silka to cut down. That kind of thing. That's a whole different can of worms if you want to go that direction, which is fine. I do have videos on waxing. Please comment if you're interested in that, and I'll make more videos. But yeah, Yeah. So yeah, the Ultrasonic. Plus, what's beautiful about the Ultrasonic cleaner for us mechanics in the shop is set and forget. Well, not forget, but it's like set and go do something else. Like, okay, I pre-treat it real quick, throw it in there, let it sit for 5 minutes. I go do something else, come back 5 minutes, check it, pull a couple parts out that are done, put the other stuff back in there, go back to what I'm doing. It's a time thing. I mean, it's really cut down because I've spent, good 15, 20, 30 minutes just sitting there scrubbing, inhaling all those harsh chemicals. I'm surprised I don't have like a third head, um, kind of thing from those harsh. I mean, Sinclair, no, I forget which, and they'd have like special individuals come out and they'd swap out tanks. It's like, my God, it's like chemical horrible. But it's safe. It's safer for the environment. I mean, you have like the dripping stuff, whatever, from your drivetrain, whatever that goes in there. But it's probably no different than washing your hands when you're working on your car. That kind of thing goes down the drain. And there's filters for that kind of thing through the waste system. Let's see. All right. Dead. Oh yeah, dead. Well, what I meant is like the 5200 stripe. You go into the comments here being listed. It's like the title as dead. Is it not? Well, what's dead is the rear wheel. The bike is the frame. The rest of the bike isn't. If you're just gonna get a rear wheel, but if I'm gonna do bikes or when I refurbish bikes, I'll matchy, so I'll do the wheel set. Therefore, it bumps the cost up. I mean, if it was for you, you bought this, go get yourself a $50 used wheel, throw it on there, be good to go. But the wheels don't match. I don't know, just kind of whatever. I'm more of a matchy when it comes to things like that. So same thing with flex shifters. I'm not going to switch out to an oddball different shifter, that kind of thing. I'll get a set for it, if not do it otherwise. It's just a thing for me when I'm just trying to produce a bike that goes out there on the market. That's what basically comes down to. But for as it is, the rear wheel's dead. Well, the hub's still good. Maybe you can use the spokes as backups, but the condition on those, they just had a bad, is a bad design. They over tensioned the spokes on those, and the high failure rate is pretty high, especially if it's on harder, bigger riders, that kind of thing. So therefore, that's why this one's going to be sold as parts, parted out, chop, that kind of thing. Okay, so we got a brake pad question from Joe O's channel. Will old brake pads lose stopping power just by getting old or brittle? Working on old 80s Panarello, and it has not been rode in the last 10 years. Okay, so brake pads, yes, they will harden. Especially I'm in an arid climate, so the likelihood of everything hardening here is pretty big. But they do harden. You can first sand the pad down a little bit to get the hardness of the braking surface down, and clean the rim brake surface with rubbing alcohol, and that might help the existing pads. But if it's pads that go into these guys here, they're like $15. The newer one's going to have a softer, grippier, and then there's like all different types of pads where you can get to more grippy to less grippy. That might be narrowing down as availability due to the fact that everything's gone to disc brakes for the most part. So, but they still make pads. You still be able to get pads, and you'll notice the difference. I've had some that are refurbished, and the customer's like, oh, it doesn't seem to break as good as it did. Is that sanding helped it for a little while, but it didn't get it to where it needed to be as new. And the pads themselves are pretty inexpensive. These are cartridge systems, so you can slide the cartridge out and slide a new one in there with a little anchor screw, and you're good to go. So yeah, that's a pretty inexpensive lift to get a high performance out of it. Absolutely. And if it's that old, if they're original that old, most likely they will need to be replaced for sure. All right. It has the old 105s. Yeah, I believe those have the cartridge system. So yeah, I would just get Yeah, they're not too expensive. You can find them on Amazon, or I've gotten the last ones I think from Jensen's USA, out in California. If you're in the States, Jensen's USA actually is pretty sweet because they have pretty good decent prices on stuff, and they don't charge sales tax. And if you hit like the $50 or more price on those, you'll get free freight. So that's why I buy from them quite a bit. Prices are really good, and it's that kind of thing. Let's see. Yeah, you can clean surfaces on that. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for classes, learning on bikes and so forth, um, you know, it's interesting. Let's go back. How did a lot of people learn how to work on bikes back in the '90s? It was Barnett School of Learning, which was in the Colorado Springs, so close to my neck of the woods. Or a lot of bike shops that cultivate, mom and pop shops that cultivate a crew of people as they teach them, and then they go to college and what have you from high school and on. Today, there's like videos all over the place. So I'm kind of thinking about that as like, should I have a general course, a mid-range course, and elite course? That might be in the works when YouTube does their courses. I'm kind of holding off on that instead of just doing a subscription. I don't know. I still want to keep the content free in general, and just make the money off the AdSense and everything else. So it shouldn't cost you to learn how to work on a bike. Park Tools has definitely paved the way on that. Is pretty much everything you come across with new or used. Obviously, they're trying to push their tools, which you see a whole bunch behind me. Not a plug by any means, but just happening to standard. They have a great video series of helping you learn those process. But I don't think anything's out there that's current that's showing what the new bike builds are or any of that nature, because everything has shifted so much, or how to work on the older stuff, that kind of thing. So it's going to be kind of like how to build and repair bikes in the '90s, how to build and repair bikes in the 2000s. So maybe we'll have to have a series like that. Like, this is what you're looking at for a 2007 bike or range. That might be a great idea. Thank you. I'll work on that. We'll see where we go with that. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, and also another thing I was thinking about doing, and throw in comments and ping me below too. Like, there's working on your own bikes, or maybe refurbishing bikes in your neck of the woods to help people out, and that's great. I mean, it's if there's more of us out there helping people getting into the used market, taking the scary out of used, is the better. It's better for everyone. It's better for your community, better for everything. And unfortunately, small bike shops are dying off because they just can't afford the overhead and everything else and the employees and all that. Or the other aspect of it too is like, if I want to open up a small micro shop, like mine out of the garage, is it viable for me or what have you? Tell you right off the bat, you're not going to make a lot of money in the bike industry at all. There's an old saying: if you want to make $1 million in the cycling industry, you need to start with two. But if there's a passion piece to it, you may have some more successes at it in your neck of the woods, all that in demographics, all those kinds of things. Absolutely. And make it, other thing I would highly suggest is go the social media route too, because there's a whole bunch of you peoples that like watching us peoples do things in the garage. It just is, and it's you're not stepping on my toes. I'm not crushing Bike Farmer's numbers by any means. He's doing really well. I am very envy-ish a lot because we hit the scene about the same time, and he's doing so much better. I'll get there, whatever the case. But the thing is it's the more you can work on your own bike and help others get on the bike and have those great experience. Thumbs up for everybody on that. Try to have me try to explore those avenues with the time. Everything's limited, right? So the limited time I have to put all into this. Hence, reason I'm doing these live, because editing is a killer for me. I mean, I have a stack of videos that have been shot, but editing process and thumbnails and all that is brutal, to find the time to do all that. Eventually, if I get big enough, outsource some of that. But the thing is right now, here it is. So yeah, that's what I always suggest in a lot of those things. All right. What other good questions we got here? All right. Part tools. Yeah, there's a lot of different tools out there too. The other tool companies like Feedback and Pedro's, I don't know if they really have a good video selection yet, but Park Tools really freaking hit it. I mean, they have a huge library. They're doing it for years. The guy with the mustache, he's entertaining to watch, that kind of thing. Any case. Hunter, Jensen's, you're in Cali. Yeah. Nice. Awesome. All right. So, what time are we at? Yeah, we're running about an hour. No, I'm not running away yet. There's just the other thing I wanted to talk about. There's two things. One, I did have a question from Vital Chains. He pinged me on eBay, and I haven't had a chance to respond yet for his life, right? So I wanted to talk about, I launched out, if you check my website, you'll see a whole bunch of the Connex chains. Okay, this is a little bit of a shameful plug, but the Connex chains, if you look up their website, as the Connex, they're out of Germany, high precision, all those German steel, all those things, that great buzzwords. You don't see these on OEM bikes, but they're a great higher level chain to put on your bike when you need to replace your chain. So there's a lot of good chains out there. I'm not dogging that by any means. Shimano, SRAM, KMC, a whole bunch of other ones, right? But this is a little bit higher grade. Watch some videos on them. They're good. But the thing that was turned on to me by John Bradley, he does a lot of rides, he's been in the industry for 50 years, blah, blah, blah. He's really in the Connex chains. He sold me on a little bit. I talked to the guy that's the rep here, Connex chains, details, all good stuff. What's the kicker is I've been doing a lot of waxing, kind of pushing out, providing a product line. Well, the question is, number one, that he had from Vital Chains. If I got it wrong, sorry, buddy. He does wax chains. That's his business. And he's asking about the Connex brand. Is it a huge draw? And it's like, well, the reason I didn't buy these to wax and resell specifically just to sell wax chains. It's part of it. I have a stack of chains that I have as back stock for repairs when they come in, or refurbished bikes that I keep. So I kind of hit two folds of the business perspective. Is like, oh, I have all these chains instead of just sitting here waiting, collecting dust for the next bike to come in. Well, I'll wax them and put them on those for sale too. Okay, you getting one of that? These have reusable links. That's the benefit, one of them, of using a wax chain with Connex, because you can take the chain off, and also reusable links without a tool. You can do it without a tool to switch it in and out. Shimano say they're only one and done. SRAM has you only use it for a few times. Those removable links. Us mechanics been doing them for years. They seem to hold up fine, but there's a liability to it, right? If the manufacturer says you can't do it, you shouldn't be doing it. Sure. Because they just want to sell you more replacement links, really. And also the replacement Connex links, you could buy just the linkages, connectors themselves, and I think they are compatible with Shimano and SRAM. So if you want to go that direction. Anyway, wanted to bring that up in this talk here. If he's by chance on here, we can, I'll send him an email directly. But that remaining of the response, like, you've seen these on my website. That's what's going on here. I'm doing some pre-wax chains that help you all get into wax chains, and I do have a couple of videos that help you refresh and redo them yourself, if you want to go that direction. There was a video that did launch this week from Silka talking about real bad conditions, wet and so forth, and it did a mixed blend with I think it was just really a selling ploy, but it was really just mixing the wax with kind of their synthetic lube to kind of add longevity and waterproofness to it. So whatever you need to do in your neck of the woods. I'm in a very arid climate, so we don't, rust is not a huge thing, but it is in other areas. So if you do wax your chains and you're in a very wet environment, hey, let us all know. I mean, see what that case is and all that kind of deal. A couple more questions soon, and we'll do a zoom out here. All right. Let's see. Yeah, going on. Hunter's talking about bike tools from Jensen's. Okay, here's all bike tools. Park Tools is your like Snap. If you know what Snap-on tools for the car industry, Park Tools is that equivalent to. It's just high-end tools, and it makes our tool walls look beautiful, matchy matchy kind of thing. There's other, bike hand or hand bike, whatever it is like your generic ones. So this is where I get at. If you're just working on your bikes personally and not a lot here and there, any of those cheaper tools, as long as it's the right tool for the right job, will probably do you just fine. Save a little bit of money. You find yourself working on a lot more bikes and you find yourself wearing out that Y wrench or that cone wrench or the screwdrivers, then invest into the upper end ones. If you ever look at my videos and you look in the back of the tool wall, the more centralized area around those sockets are, all those tools is what I use pretty much on a daily basis. So that is the hot zone, if you will, of what you need to invest in. And the other tools, when they get a little further out, you don't need to pay as much. And again, like I talked about the wheels before, I like matchy matchy. Same damn thing with the tools. My bad. I just like tools and nice ones. I'm slowly investing into more expensive ones and better ones I get, or better I get at the YouTube. Basically, more money. I will be buying more tools, nicer tools, more specific tools, and going through those features as well. That kind of thing. Kind of like you got your park tools, they'll talk about their tools all day long, which is kind of a weird thing to say. Anyway, in any case, there lies, you know, if you work on anything, you like to have nice tools, and you're going to end up spending a lot more money than it's worth. But I bought some tools I've used like twice, and they have not paid for themselves whatsoever, and probably never will. But they are what they are, and they're there when I need them. And that's the kind of thing. So, but yeah, if you're looking at the bike hand kind of stuff, or the foundation brand from Jensen's USA, any of those kinds of things, most of those, especially those kits. Man, if you look at a Park Tools kit, it's so darn expensive. It's insane. And is it really worth it? Kind of not. Even on the pro level, kind of not, because you'll get a lot of extra tools there that you'll never really ever use. So if you really break it down and get the essentials and just branch out from there, that's almost sometimes the better way to go. In any case, that's my 2 cents on the tools thing. Ah. All right, another question here. Did Bubble? I'm thinking about working at a bike shop for my first job, and not sure if I now know basically I know enough or not. I mainly just want to watch YouTube videos and Burns Peak, etc. Yeah, that's another good channel. Do you think I should do? Is it cut off? Okay, so the bike realm, bike shop realm. Yeah, we need anybody that wants to work on bikes, want to work in the bike shop, working whatever. That's great. Don't let that be hesitation to starting at a bike shop. We all started somewhere, right? I started at my parents' shop. They had some schools, but they didn't really have really good schools. Right now, the YouTube is the best damn school there is to learn how to work on a lot of bikes, because you come and even working on bikes for so many years as 35 years. I still come across things that I have to reference the YouTube video to figure out either how to work or refresh my memory how it works, or on the newer stuff. And like I said before, like I'm not so ingrained in the new stuff. When I get a new stuff in my shop, I'm like, okay, I got to take a hot minute. I got the basics how to work on screwing wheels, adjusting hubs, adjusting derailleurs, brakes, and all that. Once you get the basics down, then the other things are a lot easier to comprehend. It's basically a comprehension of how things work, where they came from. I got the advantage because I remember the old derailleur and how they work, and a lot of technology or the built of it is the same to some level to accept. It's same kind of concept. So don't hesitate. Don't hesitate at all. Get the basics, and then jump into a bike shop and see. building, basically if it's the same as it was back in the 90s, they'll throw you building bikes and you'll do a couple of bike builds and they'll have videos on that. And a lot of companies have really catered to their own like product lines like Trek and Specialized, and that will have their own video series of working on their own bikes on especially the specific niche kind of things that they bring. And then you'll learn on that. So as long as you learn the basics and then you go from there, and the bike building is the basics, and then you start getting some repairs thrown at you. You see how they work and then adjust, and then you get into the problem solving thing, and then all of a sudden you're 20 years into it and broke as hell, and you still love and work at a bike shop. So side gig. I would really say, or get yourself a nice little YouTube channel and do bike repairs in Fiji with background sand and the beach and palm trees. That's where I'm going. But you're not in it for the money, but you're in for the experience and you're in for the culture. It's one of those things. I mean, you can get good at it. You can become a pro and be a travel. I know I have a buddy. His name is Kevin. He works on one of the pro teams, and he lives in Spain and works on. You always see him pop up either in like I think it's Astana is his last team that he was working for. He also did the Olympics. He was on the U.S. Olympic team mechanic, that kind of thing. That's a whole different level of stress and weirdness than your versus your shop kind of experience. But be a shop rat. It's fun. Especially if it's your first job, it's a great first job. Sure, it beats working at some fast food place or whatever. Nothing bad about that, but it's different. And all jobs will give you some great life skills. What it comes down to, right? So therefore, there you go. And if you like cycling, you might get some good discounts on it and that kind of thing. So as if you're still living at home. Because if you're living on your own, this is not going to pay the bills. You're going to have to work really hard at it, or get really lucky. One of the two. All depends on that kind of thing. But yeah, it's we most of us bike mechanics been in it for a long time. We don't drink anybody's Kool-Aid. A lot of us have stopped drinking Kool-Aid for a long time. We know what we know, and we do what we do, and at the end of the day, we want to take care of the customers. We like working on bikes. We like working with our hands. We like the engineering. A lot of us are introverts. We don't like to talk to people either. I broke out of that shell in the 90s, so you got me as a blabbermouth now. I got that from my dad. But in any case, what you're looking at is, it is a cool culture. And if you get in the right shop and the right environment, it's a lot of fun. I mean, you do some rides, you work on stuff, you learn things. It's most mechanics I've worked with in various different shops, it's always been that kind of maybe a little bit different kind of culture, but they've always been kind of a culture. I've worked in one shop once who was super sterile. I didn't last long. That was the only bike shop I ever got fired at. I don't know why. They still haven't yet to. I don't care. It was the best thing for me that ever happened. Get me out of there. That was a toxic situation, and there is those out there. But needless to say, even in the corporate stores, REI, Trek, Specialized, corporate-owned stores, us bike mechanics came from somewhere else, most likely, and we still thrive and still want to have that micro environment of culture. It's still there. They can't beat it out of us as much as they want to push the corporate Kool-Aid through our system and through our veins. We're still going to have. I want to take care of you. I want to take care of the customer, unless it's a bad day, or I had too many repairs and I got yelled at. This is just one of those things. So straightforward, common sense. Yeah. Yeah. Final none. Sounds like the best way to work on bikes is marry somebody that is a breadwinner. You're looking at one. Lucked out. I mean, I did my time, corporate retail, worked about Big Five Sporting Goods. It's a sporting good chain, that kind of thing, and made a decent salary and all that. Got married. She didn't like me working all those hours. She told me to go work at a bike shop again. Yeah, I took a healthy pay cut to get into the bike shop. Then I got into the software portion of the bike shop. Fun, whatever, that kind of thing. What I do today does not even come close to supporting what we need to do. So don't get me wrong. I'm not making a ton out of this. I'm getting more gold nuggets out of you and helping. It just warms my heart. And she is doing something that she really enjoys doing, and she's letting me do what I really enjoy doing and not worrying about the over. Yeah, if you can do it, that's great. If you have another job that's boring you to death and you want to do this part time on the weekends or in the evenings, great. I mean, and eventually at some point, maybe, and you look at the bike farmer and check it out his channel. He's a little gritty. I mean, he may not be your cup of tea, but if you look at just the overlay of the channel, like the sling blade numbers and all that, there is potential of doing something like this. And what he's probably making is probably enough to cover, depending where you live and your cost of living is and all that stuff. So it is potential. And you look at the YouTube influencers out there, you can't do it. But it's a long haul, people. I mean, I'm in this now 2 years and full-time videos. You look at my channel, it says earlier, but I just put out a couple of videos to show how to put a bike back together. Now it's for just helping me sell bikes. But actually doing YouTube itself, I've been doing it hardcore 2 years. And it's been a long grind, and it's getting better, and I'm learning things still yet today. It's not like a flip the switch and so forth. The bike farmer started at the same time I did, and he's at over 50,000 subs. So there's potential, and if you have a great personality or a different niche or a different look at it, there's plenty of room for all of us to do this. I mean, there is, and to grow and develop it. Don't put all your eggs in all one basket. Don't just rely all on YouTube. Maybe you'll have more luck on Instagram or some other social media outlets and that kind of things. You get brand deals and so forth. That's where it all kind of rolls through. But you can make it. It has more opportunity now than any ever before. Let's just put it that way. For me, I'm doing what I do because I enjoy doing it. Am I really pushing to get those higher marks? I could, but I don't. I'm taking my own time on it, right? So everybody has their own path and own journey when they do something, especially when you do a bike mechanic thing, to doing it to your neighborhood, to your family and friends, or you want to actually make a shop, all those things, or be part of the industry. Yes, there's opportunities to go into like the Trek and Specialized and REI world and go up the ranks and go that direction and maybe get into the manufacturing levels, which a lot of people do. So that's always been there, but it's more opportunity now than ever to do such a thing. That being said, our industry is in a weird place. So opportunities for getting those jobs are a little harder right now, but they will come back because the cycling world will come back. But what is the big topic now? I'm going to pull back and have a little sit, and we're going to have a little one-on-one talk about what's going on in my shop and what's going on in the industry and what is my horrible crystal. Was it eight? No, somebody mentioned, I'm going to walk out of the screen here a second, pull back. There was a mentioning about an 8-ball, and the 8-ball basically said, ask me another time. That is so stupidly true right now in the cycling industry. Ask me another time or ask again later. That's what it was. Ask again later. Well, what we're talking about ask again later. Well, the big ask right now is where the cycling industry is at. Is that the cycling industry is in multiple levels, right? Well, let's start with the title. Will my shop survive? Well, there's a good chance. There's a good chance my shop will survive because my overhead is pretty micro. It doesn't take very many sales for me to either break even or get ahead. So therefore, it's a lot easier for me to cross those barriers and go forward, right? But being a bike shop owner as just me, I'm doing everything from sales tax to inventory to working on bikes and editing YouTube videos. So I'm doing it all. All that takes time. I do work a lot, but I enjoy doing a lot of it. So therefore, it's not too much work for me. When you really ask me how much I really work, I only count the hours that just suck, which is paying taxes and doing the paperwork portion of it. I like editing videos. I just don't have a lot of time doing it, that kind of thing. So I have to carve out a lot of time. Then you got the family piece and all that kind of thing. Yes, my bike shop will survive. My wife has alluded so far that that's fine. We'll be okay. But talking about other bike shops, they're doing either something similar to mine or small bike shops. There was a bicycle retailer article that just went out today, bicycleretailer.com. I have I believe, a link in the description below. And they interviewed uh, 7 or 8 shops in different perspectives. And what I got out of that, and these are various individuals that they come back and they interview them about kind of a pulse check across the nation in different various markets. What really comes down to in the last year, clothing sales suck for them. They're not selling apparel and all that too well. There's a lot of competition online. You can buy a whole bunch of stuff on Amazon, right? Super cheap. I mean, it's not a market for bike shops to sell. Parts usually relate to service departments, so upsells of parts and so forth. They're not going to lie, they've been selling some stuff, but actually pretty good. Bike sales sucked basically for new. Used pretty decent if your price points are good. But underlining of all of them, between the e-bikes to the regular small shop or the shop that just services and wheels and that kind of thing, says service has actually been increasing and is better. That makes total sense because we have the boom whiplash and all the inventory and all that. And we got a whole bunch of people that got into cycling, which is great. But on the flip side, though, those bikes are now needing tune-ups and tires, and that's if they still are riding and getting into it. So when you're looking at that perspective, that whiplash, the service is helping these shops, and they seem to be doing okay. So therefore, here's the bit. If you're a small shop, one location, that's the expensive parts of running a shop is the overhead and your employees. A lot of them had to let people go or downsize or what have you to sustain, and that was already happening pre-COVID. A lot of shops in either the 2000s were shrinking their footprint because they were just too big for the volume that they're doing. So where you got now, coming out of COVID, and they're like, oh, we're all trying to compare pre-COVID numbers. You can't. I mean, at some level, sure, you can try, but there's no sense to it. Reason being, because you can blame the manufacturers. The manufacturers built too much stuff, the wrong stuff, too expensive stuff, and still have not changed their ways. They're still building a whole bunch of expensive stuff and hoping they're making less of it. They're still hoping to sell it. And yeah, they'll have some success with selling it, but it's not going to be huge. They're the ones that are going to be in the biggest. They're going to have the biggest problem because the small micro shops, we are adjusting and flipping and doing back spins and doing everything we can to make things work. We're waxing chains, we're detailing frames, we're taking care of customers, we're doing group rides, we're doing all sorts of events, try to give everybody the warm hugs. We're trying to get back to the 90s way of bike shops. That's great. Then you have the corporate stores, REI, specialized stores, Czech stores. They have the Kool-Aid, but they all have just new. They're not selling used on their floor. They're stuck. They put themselves in the corner. Don't put the baby in the corner. Is that right? Flashdance. No, not Flashdance. Shit, wrong one. Not Roadhouse either. The Patrick Swayze movie. Whatever. So they're pigeonholed themselves. So they're stuck on new, and those manufacturers are going to have to figure out price point lead-in bikes and accessories because the shit's too expensive with the current market. it's too expensive. They're not going to have anything. So when you're looking at that perspective, it's pretty rough. It's going to be tough for them to do. Try to recover. Well, then you have the other companies like Planet Cyclery, Colorado Cyclists, the Pros Closet. They go under, get regurgitated, get names, get reused, trying to get rebuilt, all that kind of stuff. You're going to see a lot more of that. The bike shops that are bigger, like Bike Mark down in Texas, you have Wheels and Sprockets up in Wisconsin. I know them. They have bigger and more locations and that kind of thing. They're adjusting too. But they're a little bit slower than the corporation, or a little bit faster than the corporations, a little bit slower than the small mom and pop shops, but they're adjusting. They're doing training. They're doing everything. They're doing promotions, marketing, and sure hell they're going to be looking into the used market because that's where the prices have dropped and that's where they can get comparable componentry bikes to compete. Therefore, that bike market is there. The Pros Closet missed the mark and crashed. they're going to try to come back and take some of it back up. But before Pros Plaza actually can get back up and running, all these other companies are going to take up that market if they're smart. If they're smart. Because if they're smart to be able to bring in entry-level bikes, $1,000 or less, and put that same Trek used bike right next to a new Trek bike, and have that customer have the opportunity to get into a bike without sticker shock and having a heart attack because they just had a second mortgage to be able to get a bike. So get into riding. In any case, the used market is very strong and thriving, but the price of it is gotten really down. So those bigger shops, like I talked, they're really concerned about margin and making enough money to make everything work, right? Well, you got to consider it kind of a loss leader to keep the lights on, because you're paying that employee to work on the bike, paying that salesperson to sell that bike, but the bike makes enough money to pay those people. It may not be a negative profit for the bottom line, but you're generating and cultivating that culture, bringing those new customers in. They're going to come back within 6 months to a year and buy that more expensive bike, more stuff, all that to go with it. So they're going to have to look at it in that lens versus I just need to buy new and just shove it down everybody's throat and just sit on too much inventory and discount it and just devalue the brands and all that kind of stuff. So therefore, that's what we're kind of looking at when you're looking at the Pros Closet relaunching, when you're looking at the reskinning of college cyclists and Planet Cyclery, and then you're looking at what's Trek is going to do and Specialized is going to do in this new year. Next 4 years, I don't talk about politics, but there is going to be a change, and we don't know what that change is really. I mean, there's a lot of talk. That's all it is, but we haven't seen rubber hit the roads yet. So what we can do is hope for the best, accept for the worst, be prepared for the worst, and just move forward. And that's one of those things. Well, if everything is super expensive coming overseas, the used market locally is going to be your best priced items to do so. So that's where you're going to see a whole Footloose. No, put Baby in the corner. Patrick Swayze with the stand. So, God, what was it? Any case, 80s movie, right? No, whatever. Anyway, back to the lewd. Industry, yes, is a chaos, is a crisis, is a hot mess. Yes, and it's a big transition. We're going back, I believe we're going back to the 90s, the way of treating customers and bringing in, building the culture and, bringing in some cool stuff, but rely on our bread and butter, streamlining the inventory. The corporations like Trek Specialized Giant are no longer going to dictate our sales room floors because they're not they're not going to help you because they're trying to help themselves, or if they are going to help you, it's going to be leveraged. So you're going to bring in other brands, and they're going to allow you to bring in brands because they're not going to have enough to support everything anymore. Because Trek try to do everything and everyone. That's why they're reducing 40% of their inventory SKUs. They did too much. They can't do it. So narrow and deep on the things that work for them. So we're reverting. It's going to be a little, not all the way to the 90s. I mean, thank God. But, I don't know if grunge should come back. But in a way, it's those principles, the corporate principles are going to change back to that. We're going to be happy to sell you. So a couple private pilot, here, I'm going to do a couple applications and see if they will sell to a guy in the garage that has a business license and insured and been working on bikes for the last 4 years as a business, and see if they would sell to me at wholesale. Maybe they will listen to it. Maybe they'll like, okay, we'll sell you some chains and tires because we need to sell chains and tires, and you're providing a service. Unfortunately, there's no way in hell I'm going to go get a brick and mortar store. There's no way. It's just too expensive. It's just not going to work unless somebody gave me a big bag of money and said open a store. And I don't know if I even would do that. I'd probably just buy a couple condos in Vegas and rent them out. I mean, that's you're going to have more investment on your return. Would I love to build a nice, shop? Yeah, culture and coffee bar and all the fun bells and whistles. but the money's just not there. I mean, you still have to live your life. You got to pay your bills, right? So there alludes that. But anyway, and we don't know about the tariff thing. We don't know about any of the other stuff. And it's like, it doesn't matter what side of the fence you are. We are going to be in the experience of change. That's just the bottom line. And whether that change might be good, might be bad, might be weird. All I can guarantee is going to be weird. But it's going to be just, different than we're used to. And how is it going to affect the cycling world? Well, hopefully it doesn't affect you as a person that rides their bike. That's what it comes down to. Can you go out and ride your bike, have a smile on your face, you get that tube fixed by a mechanic or have the parts to fix it yourself? Will you have YouTube influencers out there to be able to help you out along the journey on the way out there? That kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, I don't foresee any of us disappearing as in the YouTube realm and doing videos and helping people out because, for quite honestly, like the bike farmer has pretty much saved his butt as well as mine of keeping my business going, making it viable, right? Because we have extra income that comes in and is helping us off in the off season. So I want to allude to the last thing I want to talk about. I was going to make a whole video about this, and I still might. But basically, how's bike shops going to survive going forward from now, where we're in the hot mess that's going on? Well, reading the article and bicycle retailer about the small shops is a lot of weight is going to be in service, supporting and helping people keep on their bikes and riding. Either that's in the wintertime with fat bikes or getting outdoors or indoors with trainers or keeping those trainers going or buy some of the used trainers and maybe used bikes to put on trainers, like your just highway to nowhere bikes, like some inexpensive, some they can put in their basement, leave it, and they'll leave their nice bike in the rack and use it on the nicer days. Luckily for us in Colorado, we have a huge ability of riding in the wintertime because it's sunny. It could be 35 degrees, but it's sunny. and the bike paths are clear, and you just go. I mean, yeah, as long as you layer up, you're good. In some areas, I know you can't. So, not all those particular things. There's not a silver bullet that's going to fix everything by any means, but what bike shops are going to have to really leverage, and you'll see this in your local shops, and especially the smaller ones, mom and pops, are going to give you warmer hugs, give you discounts on tune-ups. They're going to help you out, do some little extra free service, like the whole free service from Specialized thing that they try to push out, which is not new. But they did well marketed though. Well marketed. I do have to give them that. But the thing is, that's where it's going to be relying. Are we going to sell some tubes and tires and chains and all that? Yeah, at the time of service, sure. People are not going to gawk on the price too much. But if you're going to be working on yourself, you're going to be looking for that cheapest chain price out there. Because why would you pay $10 more for the same thing from another vendor that you know nothing of? But if you're buying a chain for me that's been pre-waxed and it's a little bit more than retail, but it's been waxed, if you've seen any of those videos of waxing your chains, you're going to realize pretty quickly it's like, I might want to buy that pre-waxed. Then I'll do the refresh myself. And you're not really, the idea for me is trying to bring the price down, costs, through and then do that service and be pretty close to regular retail with a wax chain. That's what I'm trying to shoot for. But in any case, but yeah, those kinds of things. Bike shops are going to be really pushing their leverage for 24-hour services. Maybe start doing some suspension in house again, deep detailing, possibly ceramic coatings, and those wax cut, not wax covers. So what are they called? It's whatever. It's kind of like protection for frame, protection for off-road, mountain bike frames, that kind of thing. It's really best to do it when it's stripped down to the frame to get into all those bits. So that's what you got going on there. So you're going to see a lot of service there. You're not going to see a lot of clothing. But one person did have success on clothing. The only clothing they'll carry is their branded clothing. Like, I know a guy jerseys. I know a guy bikes shorts. I know a guy, hoodies and t-shirts and things like that, which you can find a link below in my spread shop shirt. That's where I'm not investing into any other brand Kool-Aid like Trek Specialized or whatever else. I'm just investing into my own branding. And there was a shop in Michigan. That's all he did, and he did fairly well. So, it's like, why am I trying to sell somebody else's brand when I should be selling my own? There lies your niche bike shop. You'll find yourself, if you're a mountain biker, you'll find your niche mountain bike shop that you like to hang out with, talk to them about, talk about rides, and they'll fix your shit. Same thing for roads, same thing for family recreational. There's a shop in Parker now that basically is doing what we did back in the 90s. Look them up. Family little shop, doing really great, just about 2 miles from where our shop was. I met the owners on a charity ride thing. Super cool. Looked up their stuff. They're doing great. It's awesome. I mean, need more of that. I mean, that's what we need, because 80 to 90% of us that are in the cycling experience world is recreational riders. You don't kid you now. You may need to do some racing here and there, but sure enough, you're not going pro. And the rest of the recreational riders need those recreational shops. Yeah, they may cater to people that want to do some novice racing. Sure, great, fine. But that's not their whole niche. It's basically giving the warm hug to those that are bringing up to the ranks and getting you back into cycling. It alludes to people that want to start working at bike shops. It alludes to building that culture back up from the ground up. That's what we're in Noel from Will Sprocket. So there's a huge erosion to the cycling industry and the bike brands and all that. The erosion doesn't stop at the bikes themselves. The erosion was throughout the whole cycling community. We need to build that up, fix it, and make it better than it has before. We're all still here riding. We're all still here working on bikes to some level, and the demand is still there. It just needs to be brought back up before they're going to start selling those $10,000 to $20,000, $30,000 bikes again. It's just not going to happen overnight, of course. In any case, ceramic coating, that's the one. Also, thank you, Hunter, for chiming in. Yeah, you can do ceramic coating in the frames, and there's also it's kind of like the wraps that you do on the car, but for bikes that have a little more protection from dings and chips and stuff. Because you do mountain bikers these days, I don't think you have skill. You just run over shit and break into it. No, just kidding. There's a lot more. You guys ride sick stuff. I mean, it's insane. I watch the videos; they're just nuts. But for me, yeah, those days are long gone. I'm more of I like a nice trail ride with a smile on my face, not worried about it. I'm more worried about rattlesnakes jumping out of the grass than anything else. But in any case, yeah, it's like there's a lot of services out there that you'll find in your shops are going to be, and definitely put more into it for sure. All right, let me see if there's any other comments that should address here. Yeah, it's a community thing. So you're watching this, you probably ride, right? And for me, every time my garage door is open and people walk by, walking their dog or whatever, and see bikes, sometimes they'll pop their head in and like, "Hey, you work on bikes?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'll help them out with their kid's bike. It's help them out with their bikes too, of course. I'm basically a bike shop out of the garage, right? And I tell them that. But the lighter stuff and the smaller stuff, and especially for my neighbors, I'm like, "Oh, sure, fine. I'll get you next time, whatever." But if you're just an avid cyclist, likes riding and getting, if you have opportunity to, paths and so forth around your neck of the woods, great video to watch is the one I have on Kirk. Local legend here. He's retired, and the last 4 years of his retirement got into cycling, built his own community, and he's really helping the local cities develop more paths and all that kind of stuff. Not to say that you need to do that. A lot of us have lives and are busy right now, but you can do that on a micro level. It's like if you're riding down the path and somebody with a flat inside of the tire, inside of the road. I know you do this. I do this too. Hey, you need any help? And the last one I did, the guy biffed it. I rolled up on him. It was like after the crash. I didn't see the crash, but he was all just kind of shooken up. And I'm like, you okay? Did you hit your head or anything like that? And he's like, fine. And it's like his bike, his wheel got all jarred and all that. So while he's sitting down there just kind of dusting himself off, I'm like, let me just go through your bike and make sure it's safe to continue your ride, even if you want to continue riding. And yeah, his wheel's a jar because of the impact or whatever. So I readjusted stuff on the fly, quick release kind of stuff, things, made sure it's all straight. Went through the gears, made sure the brakes were good. And it's like, this is safety ABC check, right? And it's like, dude, here's my card. If you want to tune up or whatever, I may never see you again. That's fine. I just want to make sure you're safe from here on out. As community, that's what we're talking about, helping out other people. And you could just take that one time to helping that one person, and they're like, hey, that's great. We're all looking for that when we're doing rides and so forth. Even if you ride by yourself all the time, like I do, you're still part of the community. You can be a loner. This is one of those sports that you can be a loner and still be part of the community. Weird, right? It's just the nuts. In any case, I probably should stop talking and then go do some lunch. Got to do some family lunch stuff. But hey, hopefully you've gotten some insights out of this. I really appreciate. There's a lot of talk on the chat on this one. This is great. Awesome. I will continue to do these. I'll bring up some topics. I'll show you the bike I'm continuing. That week I'm cutting my teeth in and bringing some insights there. And if there's things that you find in my channel that you like or you don't like or whatever, put it in the comments below. Not that chat, but the comments themselves. Or you can ping me at either my Instagram messenger, or you can go to Justin at iknowaguybicycles.com. You can email me there too as well. But yeah, just hope to give you insights of what the hell goes on behind the back room door of the bike shop, and what my experiences of 35 years, and I love sharing, obviously, and it's not anything that we need to not share. Like back in the 90s, we were very guarded, because we didn't want because we knew if you knew how to turn a wrench, you could do it yourself. But nowadays it's YouTube's like, well, and some things you do yourself, and then there's some stuff like bikes got pretty complicated that you might just want to take it to the shop to deal with that tubeless tire to get fixed, or waxing that chain, or detailing that frame. Some things you just don't want to do yourself, or not skilled at, but you should be able to fix your own flat, adjust the derailleur a little bit, adjust your seat and handlebars and all those little things, to make sure you're riding safe and comfortable, and be able to do that and share that on the bike paths and rides. And that's where I'm all in for. That's every reason I've been doing this, for the community aspect of it. Even before I did the YouTube, it's basically trying to get people into riding on a safe bike and be fitted proper and have the best experience possible out of the gate. And hopefully by chance they will get into it and continue this ride. Some people just don't get into riding. That's fine, as long as it wasn't deterred by some used piece and they just didn't have the experience that they should have had in the beginning, and then they could determine from there. Cycling is a lot of fun, as you guys know, and it's also nice in your neck with. Please go for a ride. And again, thanks for hanging out with me in the garage. And until next Tuesday, next Tuesday I'll be here. Don't know about the week after that because it's Thanksgiving week, but I might be in a different location. Palm trees. But next week, no, I'll be here in the garage doing my thing. But yeah, if you have a 5200, throw it up there, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's bathroom break time anyway, and you get something to eat. And thanks again for hanging out with me in the garage, and I'll leave you with this beautiful scenery of a shop waiting for its next victim bike to be worked on. Until next time, have a wonderful day.